Well, we definitely received substantial evidence that he was involved in trafficking young women and children to the Virgin Islands for a very long period of time through our airport, through his private jet. And then he would, by helicopter or sometimes boat, would then transport them over to Little St. James. And that's where he has his complex where he lives, which is his official residence as well. And that these young girls and women were subject to sexual assault, sexual exploitation, through coercion, false imprisonment, where the passports at some points were taken away. The actions were just reprehensible. And it was quite a number of women, and we found through our investigation that at least up to 2018 that continued.
So what your investigation is showing is the broad scope of Jeffrey Epstein's nefarious activities, that it just kept going.
Based on the evidence that we found thus far. Let me make something very clear. Jeffrey Epstein was very good at protecting himself and being secret. You know, the secrecy he was very good at that. And because of his wealth, his power, he was able to do that and secure that. So when you think about it, he owns a private island. That's an island over a mile away from St. Thomas, the main island. And it's out there and it's isolated. He purchases that, right? Then he owns the jet that flew in to the airport. It's under a name of one of the front companies that actually has been named in our complaint, but it's him. He's the member of that LLC. And he owns the helicopter and the boats that took or transported him and the women and children over to the island. So when you think about that, it's him orchestrating all of that. Yes, there may have been baggage handlers. There may have been other persons who looked and saw him and other females with young girls. Yes, but I think that it's important that we focus on how Jeffrey Epstein was so able to create such an elaborate scheme, especially by doing it in such secrecy. And he had the money and power to create the secrecy so that not just local authorities, but we have federal authorities here too that are here all along. Not even they might have been able to see it. In looking at that, you have to really, get a good understanding of how he was able to protect and isolate himself. Once you get on that island, how do you get off? It's not like a person who's on the island can just say, okay, I'm going to swim to St. Thomas. They can't do that. It's not like a person who's there and needs help that they can sneak away and run outside and flag down a vehicle or flag down a police car or run to the nearest police station like they might be able to do on St. Thomas, on the main island. The island is isolated. So that kind of isolation is really what you have to look at when you start to think, how could this have happened for so long?
I think the picture you paint is a terrifying one of isolation, but also abuse of power. And I just wonder why the people who worked for Jeffrey Epstein weren't terrified for the girls going over there. They knew how isolated that island was. They knew the ages of those girls. They saw powerful men there. Why weren't they terrified? Why didn't they become whistleblowers?
Well, one thing I do know, first of all, is that there are the non-disclosure agreements that Jeffrey Epstein had all of the employees, if not most of them, sign, and they had to agree not to disclose any information to law enforcement or anyone else regarding what goes on that island. And even after Jeffrey Epstein's death, those non-disclosure agreements are still in place and still enforced by the estate. So this was just one of the ways that you can pretty much intimidate or silence people. But in addition to that, when you see someone connected with powerful people who may visit the island or he may be involved with, whether it doesn't have to be here, it could be anywhere in the world, and it's known that these powerful people are his friends and associates, that alone is intimidating to the ordinary citizen who's sitting there and watching this and say, ooh, that does not look good. But could you imagine the reluctance of that person to say, I'm going to come forward, I'm going to tell on that person who's friends with all these powerful people? So that alone, the way that he surrounded himself with these powerful people, that was an example of the kind of intimidation that would cause what you're saying, people to be silent about what they may see or suspect. As far as the Virgin Islands is concerned, we need to make sure that the Virgin Islands is not perceived as a haven for this kind of sexual exploitation, human trafficking, and sexual and child abuse. We have to make that clear. It is very important that we enforce our laws against human trafficking, against child abuse, against child and sexual exploitation of women. It is important that we do that, because if I don't do it as the Attorney General, the top law enforcement person, if we do not do it in the Virgin Islands, then those types of crimes will continue to flourish.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.